Compounding is supposed to make you rich. That's what everyone says. Put your money in, wait, and watch it grow. But here's what nobody warns you about. In the beginning, compounding feels like a complete lie. You invest every single month. You stay disciplined. You don't touch it. And your balance barely moves. So you start wondering, is this actually working? Or am I just slowly losing years of my life to something that only pays off for other people? That feeling is real. And it's also the reason most people quit right before everything changes. In this video, I'm going to show you the 4-number rule that predicts exactly when compounding stops crawling and starts exploding. And when you hear what the third number protects you from, you'll realize how close most people are to destroying their own wealth without knowing it. Here's what most people do. They invest a little, wait a few years, feel disappointed, and either pull out or stop contributing. They see the slow start and assume something's broken. But the people who quietly build real wealth, they understand something different. They know the slow phase isn't a bug. It's the filter. It separates the people who actually get rich from the people who almost did. So let's start with the first number. 7. Point 1. The number 7. 7 years, that's the minimum time commitment before compounding starts to feel like it's actually working for you. Not against you. Now I know that sounds like a long time, but there's hard data behind it. When researchers analysed the S&P 500 going all the way back to 1926, they found something striking. Invest for any random 1-year window, and you have about a 74% chance of making money. Not bad, but stretch that to 7 years, your odds of a positive return jump to over 95%. And in every single 7-year rolling period in that entire history, the average annual return was positive. Every single one. 7 years doesn't just improve the math, it changes your psychology. When you invest for 1 or 2 years, your brain is constantly checking. Every month you look at the balance, compare it to what you put in, and feel let down. But when you genuinely commit to 7 years, something shifts. You stop treating your portfolio like a scratch-off ticket. You start treating it like a tree you're planting. You wouldn't judge a tree by how tall it is in year 2. You judge it by whether it's still growing in year 7. Think about it this way. Pushing a car from a standstill is brutal. Your legs burn. The car barely moves. But once you get it rolling, once you hit a certain speed, momentum takes over. The push gets easier. Not because you got stronger, but because the car is finally doing some of the work. That's compounding. The problem is that most financial advice tells you to push the car. Nobody tells you how long you'll be struggling before the momentum kicks in. 7 years gives you the runway. But here's the thing. 7 years in the wrong setup won't save you. Which brings us to the second number. 5. Point 2. The number 5. 5 categories of diversification. Not 5 random stocks. 5 distinct types of assets that move differently from each other. So that when one is falling, something else is holding the floor. Most people mess this up. They think they're diversified because they own a handful of tech stocks or a couple of ETFs that essentially track the same index. That's not diversification. That's concentration with extra steps. Here's how the 5 categories actually work. The first is broad market index funds. Your foundation. Think of funds tracking the S&P 500 or the total stock market. This is where 40 to 60% of your portfolio lives. It's steady, it's reliable, and historically it's returned around 10% per year over the long term. The second is dividend-paying stocks or funds, companies like Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson. Businesses that pay you cash regularly, even when the market isn't going up. These give you something while you wait. 15 to 25% here. The third is small and mid-cap growth stocks. More volatile, more upside. The data shows that from 1926 to 2020, small-cap stocks returned an average of 11.9% per year versus 10.2% for large caps. That extra 1.7% sounds small. Over 30 years, it's the difference between $174,000 and $227,000 on a $10,000 investment. 10 to 20%. The fourth is international exposure. The United States makes up less than 60% of the global stock market. If you are only in US companies, you're ignoring the other 40%. International stocks also don't always move in sync with US markets. That balance protects you. 10 to 20%. The fifth is defensive assets. bonds, treasury bills, a cash reserve. They don't grow much, but they don't crash. When stocks drop 30%, your bonds might drop 5%. This is what keeps you from panicking and blowing up your own portfolio. 10 to 30%, depending on your age. This structure creates resilience, and resilience is what keeps you in the game long enough for compounding to actually work. But even with the right time frame and the right diversification, there's still something that can destroy everything, and that's the third number, 3. And when you hear what the number one move is, the one that separates people who end up comfortable from people who end up genuinely free, you'll wonder why nobody talks about it. But first, there's something that can silently destroy everything you've built, and that's the third number. Point 3, the number 3. 3 emotional phases, 3 specific moments where most investors blow up their own results, not because the market failed them, but because they couldn't get out of their own way. Phase 1 is doubt. It hits in the first couple of years. Your balance looks tiny. You see someone online making fast money flipping crypto or riding a hot stock, and a voice in your head starts whispering, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe I need to be more aggressive. Maybe compounding is just a story rich people tell to keep everyone else patient and broke. If you listen to that voice, you change strategy, chase something shiny, and reset your timeline to 0. Phase 2 is frustration. This arrives around year 3 or 4. You've invested thousands of dollars, but the returns still feel underwhelming. You're seeing linear growth when you were promised exponential. This is the phase where people pull the money out for a car, a vacation, their friend's business idea. Because at least that feels like progress. But here's the hard truth. Frustration is a signal that you're close. The compounding engine is warming up. Quitting now is like turning off the oven, right before the food is ready. Phase 3 is panic. The market crashes. And it will. In 2008, the market dropped 37%. In 2020, it dropped 34% in weeks. When your account balance falls below what you've contributed, fear takes over. You think, if I don't get out now, I'll lose everything. But every single crash in history has been followed by a full recovery. 2008, fully recovered by 2013. 2020, fully recovered by August of the same year. The people who sold locked in their losses and missed the rebound. The people who held, or better yet, kept buying, came out ahead. Panic doesn't protect you. It just guarantees the worst possible outcome at the worst possible moment. So how do you survive all 3? Automate your contributions. Check your account quarterly, not daily. And study market history until recoveries feel more familiar than crashes. That knowledge is what keeps your hands steady when everything feels wrong. And once you've survived all 3 phases, there's one final move that separates people who build moderate wealth from people who build life-changing wealth. The last number. 1. Point 4. The number 1. 1 annual increase in your contribution. Just 1. Every year you bump what you're putting in, even by a small amount. And this single habit is responsible for an enormous share of the gap between investors who end up comfortable and investors who end up genuinely free. Here's why the math is so dramatic. Say you invest $300 a month for 30 years at 8%. You end up with roughly $480,000. Solid. Now say you increase your contribution by just 5% each year. Year 2, you're putting in $315. Year 3, $331. Small, nearly invisible adjustments. With that one change, your ending balance jumps to over $780,000. That's more than $300,000 extra. From increases you barely felt. Why does this work so powerfully? Because it mirrors how your life actually develops. Your income grows. You get raises, you pay off debts. Your fixed costs stop rising the same way your earnings do. If you funnel even a small fraction of that growth into your investments, you supercharge every compounding cycle you have left. Think of it like strength training. If you bench press the same weight every week for a year, you'll plateau. But if you add just a little weight every month, you keep growing. You keep progressing. Your muscles never adapt because you're constantly pushing them. Money works the same way. Static contributions lead to static growth. Increasing contributions, even slightly, even slowly, lead to exponential growth. And here's the part that makes this feel almost too good to be true. A 5% increase on $300 is $15. That's 2 coffees, you won't feel it. But over 30 years, that adjustment adds hundreds of thousands of dollars to your wealth. That's the power of one. One small annual move that cost you almost nothing today and changes everything tomorrow. Remember Veronica from the beginning? 28 years old, 5 years of consistent investing, and about $14,000 to show for it. She was ready to quit. Instead, imagine she finds the 7-5-3-1 rule. She commits to 2 more years. Hitting the 7-year mark, she restructures across the 5 categories. She prepares for the emotional phases so they don't catch her off guard, and she increases her monthly contribution by just 5%. Here's what happens next. By year 7, she has around $24,000, still not dramatic. She holds. By year 10, $42,000. Year 15, $89,000. Year 20, $156,000. And by year 30, staying consistent, increasing slowly. She's sitting on over $500,000. In the final 10 years of that 30-year run, she contributed less than $75,000, but her account grew by over $300,000. That's not her doing the work anymore. That's the curve. That's the moment her money stopped crawling and started running. She almost quit at year 5. The entire difference was understanding what the slow phase actually meant. Think about it. If you've made it this far in this video, it means compounding isn't just an abstract concept to you. You're serious about understanding it before it's too late. So let me ask you, where are you right now in the 7 years? Drop it in the comments. And if this changed how you see your investment timeline, subscribe to this channel. There's a lot more where this came from. I'll see you in the next one.